The Icons of Real Estate podcast. Are you ready to learn the proven money-making secrets from top-producing icon agents? Ready to skyrocket your business? This podcast is for you. Tune in every week with your host, Tomasz Fonseca, and find out how to implement proven strategies to 10 times your business. From $3 million to $30 million in just 12 months. Brought to you by the Masters in Real Estate Marketing, Arter SEO.
Everybody, welcome to Icons of Real Estate, the Nashville edition. The guest that we have on our show today is the Miss Beautiful Jessica Sowell in Franklin, Tennessee. I wanted to make sure I said her last name correctly. So welcome to the podcast, Miss Jessica. Thank you for joining us, and we're happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
Awesome. So we'll go ahead and get started. I know you have not recently, I apologize. You have sold over 200 homes in your real estate career. I think I read that you were with a team at one point, and that kind of fueled you to get going on your own and do your own thing.
Started on a team. Always suggest I loved working on a team, but eventually I outgrew it. I would have stayed if I felt like there was a place. It's always everyone likes to do things on their own, but I got a lot of experience and a lot of training on that team early on in my career. So I feel like it's such a great way to start if you're new in the industry. I worked for Kyle Feltz. He owns Bradford Real Estate now, and was with him, his buyer's agent for 6 years, I guess. And then I just went through a little bit of burnout after my dad passed. I had one of those, work is not life. And then but it's like COVID and you're like, is this a good time to really quit? Yeah. And I had the best year of my career, but I was mentally exhausted, and I just was like, hey, I'm done. I didn't even know, I didn't really have a plan, but I rolled off from there, and instead of just rolled into my own brokerage. I was like, I'll just start my own thing. I work for myself. So all my experience was with him,
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we kind of have a similar background in regards to a team. I didn't initially start on a real estate team, but a few years after I was in real estate, I did join a real estate team, and same thing as you. That's where I really learned a whole lot about real estate, especially foreclosures, because it was a team that at the time was selling the most foreclosures. So I completely get what you're saying.
Did you like it?
I did. I mean, I feel like you, I kind of outgrew it.
Yeah.
I was a buyer's agent, and then I became a listing agent. And then I stayed a little while after that. And then it was just like, this is nice. This is fun. What else can I do on my own? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. Okay. So you took you got your broker's license shortly after leaving.
What's funny is being on a team, you have what's your job? I was the buyer specialist. I helped buyers, 30 plus buyers a year. I think when I left, I did 55, and I was like, my mental health is not well. I was because if you really care, and I think you're only good at this job if you do really care about the families that you're helping. Anytime you go under contract, everything's on a deadline, and no matter how much help you really have, people just need you. And I was buyer specific for 6 years. I didn't do anything else. I didn't ever had a sign with my name on it. If someone asked for a 1-day code, I'm like, I don't do that. I don't it was so wild. What I used to joke with my boss. I'm like, it would blow your mind what I don't know. And he's like, why do you say that? I was like, but I was so good at what I did. I was so good at buyers, and everyone loves listings. I don't love listings. I love buyers. I could find a buyer house in one weekend. And so that's where my heart has always been, helping put people in homes, and then getting to list their home and help them upgrade as their families grow is really fun for me. But yeah, teams are great. I wish I had the courage to switch, be like, I'm going to try this and try that. Because I just was like, this is my lane. I'm staying in it. And then you blink and it's 6 years goes by.
Wow. That is awesome. So another question I have for you is, what is your real estate story? I know I'm hearing your background and what you did, but what is your real estate story? What made you get into real estate?
I feel like I've always had a really curious mindset, and so I tend to jump in. If I don't know anything about something, I'm like, I'm gonna get my degree in that. I'm gonna learn. I don't like not knowing anything. And I didn't buy my first house till I was 30. I was in the bar industry for about seven, or I guess my whole 20s, and managed and traveled. And I knew I always wanted to do real estate. Like I wanted to learn about it, and that was like a goal, but I wanted to wait until I was moved back to Tennessee. I
Mm,
was raised here. I moved for a couple of years, and I knew
okay.
that state specific, I wanted to be in Tennessee. So as soon as I left that job and moved back to Nashville, a friend of mine from high school worked for Kyle, and he was adding a
Wow.
buyer's agent, and I met with them, and I was just very set on like, this is what I'm going to do. Let me join
Wow.
your team. And yeah, I just knew moving back, that was it.
That was it.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. So what year did you get your real estate license?
I think it was 2015,
Okay.
March.
March
Yeah, and
2015.
then April of this year will be, I think, my third year, going on 3 years of having my own brokerage.
Okay.
But yeah, I got it in 15 and was with him for at least 6 years on that team.
Wow. Wow. So now you have your own brokerage. How is that going for you?
Honestly, I love it because I'm a control freak, but also I hate using that word, but it's just true. I like things how I like them. And I was like, if I know I'm going to do real estate forever, I just want to work under my own brand. I know how I like things. My agents would describe me as very particular. But I will say, if giving advice to anyone, I wish I would have rolled off the team, maybe built my team. I don't really have any regrets, but you're growing, you're trying to structure a business and also your own team. And I never really wanted a team, but once again, you're kind of forced to grow into that. When I
Yeah.
left, I was like, I just want to work for myself, by myself.
Myself,
That's
and
it.
that's it.
But like you eventually will have too many clients and they're like, you need some
Mhm.
help. And you're like, all
Yeah.
right, that's fair. So
Yeah.
I love it. And I think God really knows what you need. And I've had a lot of great agents run alongside me when I left that followed me. And I was determined to just be a loner. And they're like, we're coming with. So it's been a fun little crew that we have. And I like it.
That's awesome. So how big is your team now?
Well, I have one right hand who's like my
Okay.
girl. I think I'm about to add a third, or she'll be our number three buyer's agent. But I
Okay.
have six agents under tour aside from me. And we're, well, not to say we're particular, but we have a really good thing going. So we're like, we don't just take anybody. You gotta like, it's hard. It's a lot of liability as the broker.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
if you sell, I see you now why these big teams who sell a lot aren't their own broker or brokerage.
Yeah.
It's like the E-Myth, right? You're like, I like baking cakes. I'm going to start a business, but you're not baking cakes. You're the accountant.
Exactly. Because you got to think about the back office part of it.
Yeah.
So
And the
you're,
liability, as a
yes,
like, that's the hardest thing.
yes,
The wild, wild west out here. Yeah.
absolutely. I can absolutely agree with that. So when you left, you said it was Bradford
Yes.
real estate. So when you left there, your reason for leaving was you just felt like it was time and that you can.
Yeah, when I wasn't on the team, I was really tied to Kyle and his team more than I was Bradford. And
Uh,
so I had wanted to get my broker's license for a while, but I hate the word busy. You're just always too busy. And I'm like, okay, it's been 6 years. I should have gotten it 3 years ago. Let's just go ahead and knock it out and start your own thing, set
awesome.
it up how you want it. And yeah, I just made that leap. It was really tough. I love Kyle. I couldn't have asked for a better team to build my career with, but he agreed and he knows. He's like, you can't stay with me forever. Once you
Yeah.
outgrow them, it's just you're trying to force it to make it work. You're like,
Yeah. Well,
uh,
I think that's when you can say it was a job well done on his
so
part
true.
and your part, because essentially that's what they want to see you get to, or it should be.
Yeah,
It should
right.
be. It should be what they want you to get to, right? Kind of like
Yeah, it's a good point.
you're,
I
yes,
love that.
it's like you're leaving the nest, so to
Yeah.
speak. So
Yeah.
I totally, totally get that. So in terms of what was your production last year?
Oh my gosh. I didn't know we were about to do it. I honestly, I don't know.
And that's okay if you
You
don't
know
know.
what? We used to I've only ever calculated, it wasn't until I had a coach last year, a broker coach, and everyone would calculate, which I guess makes sense, but they're like, how much volume did you sell? And I'd be like, I helped 34 families. I couldn't tell you at all. Like, what's
Right.
your average sales price? I'm like, I don't know, but I know 34 families. And
Okay.
that was how Kyle, and we always marked,
How
yes,
the
how
number.
many
Okay.
families did we help? The transactions. And because, you could do 5 transactions in the millions and then do 30. They don't, it's not the same. So like, I understand it makes sense where you're like work, if you can raise your price point, do less, make the same. How do you do that? I have always just loved my people, and they have graciously loved me back and supported my business.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of work what's right in front of you, and I just help. It's like anyone who doesn't think they can own a home, or I've helped before. I'm like, especially if someone thinks they can't do it, I'm like on you like white on rice. I'm like, all right, how do we make this happen?
Right.
And I just want to get everyone into home ownership. And I'm like, once you do it once, I don't care. You'll see how easier it is than you think. And so I've just always chased, how many people are we helping and serving? Never my volume. I know I've done over like 100 million in my career, and because I had to write a bio one time, and that's about it. Like I think close to 300 homes now, but I don't,
Wow.
I last year I'll say was I slowed down for like 6 months to build systems. And
Okay.
after about 6 months, I was like, I'm a producer. I can't work on system. And so I finally have learned to play in your strengths,
Yes.
where I always am like, I want to know how to do everything, especially if you run the business, and you should, and that's great. But also it's like, I
It's
don't
a
just,
it's a
yeah, it's
handicap in
hard.
a way. It could
It
be a hand.
is.
It
It
could
will
be a hand.
slow you
Yeah.
down. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm just gonna stay in my lane, and you have someone else. If you ask me to write a caption, it'll take me like 2 hours for an Instagram. I'm like overthinking it. No,
Chat GPT. But
I know.
anyway.
Even that, I'm like, yeah, I'm like, was this right? I'm just that perfectionist. So
Yes.
I hired a systems girl, and she's helped me build systems because I'm
Awesome.
tired of repeating myself. I know what I like. And if I'm not remembering to get a referral gift for everyone that sends me a referral, and there's remembering people's home anniversaries, I'm failing. Like I'm
Mm,
failing. I don't care if I had my best year ever. If I forgot to send a thank you to someone who
yeah.
referred me, I failed. And so those are my markers, right? Like what I can control. And I
Yeah.
feel like if you focus on that, the rest just comes, right? It's just an overflow.
Yeah. And you have to know once your business starts going, you have to know when it's time to delegate.
Yeah.
And like you said, I know you're a perfectionist, so it's hard to delegate because it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like I don't have the time to do it, but it has to be done this way. And I guess I'm kind of the same way, maybe not as much, but I
You a
feel like
delegator? You got that 4 hour work
I
week?
I will say this. I'm not a complete delegator, but almost every day, at least once a day, I say, I'm just gonna get somebody to do this. And
Yeah.
I have got somebody to do certain things, but I know my strengths too. And so I think that's important. As realtors, we need to know our strengths and our weaknesses. And then if you already are strong in some point, like some people are already strong with marketing, but maybe
Mm-hmm.
communication is not, you know, one of their strengths. So you have to find, and I think that's a good part about having a team, because
Oh yeah.
typically on a team, you got a little bit of everything, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
hopefully within that team, everybody is doing something that they're good at, and
Yeah.
that's what keeps the team
It's hard to
functioning.
tell a new agent. It's hard to tell someone that in the beginning. I think that comes with experience, because
Yeah.
I remember talking to an agent, and I'm like, you do not want to do your own transaction coordinating. Like I'd make everyone have a C to C, like contract to close coordinator. You don't want to miss a deadline because you're too busy. And she's like, I'm going to do it myself. She was like making her own her own closing gifts. I'm like, that is not worth like, what are you per hour? Like, my boss used to be like, all right, if you make me this much, you're worth this much per hour. So if you're worth $200 per hour and you're doing anything that's like a $10 task, stop it.
Yes,
I'm like,
yes,
well, I like doing it. It's like, no,
yeah.
it's not, doesn't work.
This is not where you shine at. So yeah,
Yeah, and that's
exactly.
the great thing about teams. And some people really are like, I want to do this or be an agent, but you're like, you can make good money and have a good quality of life and people want to do what they're good at. Like, why are
Yeah.
you trying to struggle through life? I'm like, that's not your strong suit. I'm gonna get out of there. Same with me.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So if somebody wants to follow you, where should they go to follow you? You're on Instagram.
I don't ever, we're working on our tour Instagram. So we have Jess, it's
Okay.
just my name. My friends call me Jess. So Jess Sowell, three S's, Sowell, just on Instagram, my name, Jess Sowell. And then we also have tour properties.
Okay.
.com or tour properties on Instagram. That is the brokerage name. It actually came from music, my love of like touring and music. You would think like homes,
Oh,
but
that's exactly what I thought too.
yeah, I was like, this name was hiding in plain sight. How did I get to trademark this name? Tour.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. So you mentioned that you love music. What kind of music are you into?
My family's in the Christian music industry, but I grew up, I was raised here, so I was raised on country. But me and my sister really love R&B. We like all kinds. It's hard when you appreciate music to not like Dermot Kennedy is my favorite right now. I like all kinds. It's really
Awesome.
maybe not like metal, but everyone assumes being from here, you just love country. I'm like, I know my country, but it's not probably not my top.
Gotcha. I like country music. I like some country music because I feel like I don't know, they tell stories in a
I
sense.
like 90s country. I like that old country that people today would be like, oh gosh, like cringeworthy. But that's what I was raised on, like Brooks
Yeah.
and Dunn, George Strait. I like the oldies, the
Yeah.
classics.
Yes, absolutely. Well, that is awesome. So let's talk about what are your goals this year for your business and yourself and your team?
Honestly, I read the book by Rory Vaden, Procrastinate on Purpose, and we've really spent 6 months or so at least building systems
Mm.
to just run more efficiently. It's really hard when you're just in it, and especially starting in 2015, you have a way of doing business and you're just busy all the time and go, 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 and you don't really stop to be like, all right, how do I set up a system and instructions to do this? I always say if you can't be promoted, you can't be replaced, right? So even the girl helping with the system, she wants to be an agent. And I'm like, all right, well, who's going to take your spot? And will it be easy for her to come in, know how and what to do? And
Right.
so we've really been working on that. And so our goal this year is to just have like streamlined testing them, troubleshooting, streamlining systems, and then kind of building up my brand. I love training agents. So I want to do more of that. I want to help more people, not be so caught up in the hustle culture where it's just like, how do you love people well, be patient, serve people, and focus on knowledge and learning and not just chasing every transaction?
Right. A
Um,
balance.
yeah, so I love helping people do that. And that's like always been where my heart is, but I love helping our people too. So it's like you said, a balance of delegating, knowing everyone's getting the service you would give them while
Mhm.
also training the agents that come under you.
That is awesome. Awesome. Is there anything else? I think we talked a little bit about what advice you would give to agents, and I think were saying, it would be to definitely join a team, especially newer
Yeah,
agents.
I
Yeah.
think that's so tough because it asks, like, what are you an expert in? I'm like, well, I never would call myself an expert in anything. I like to have a beginner's mindset. I think you get really closed off when you have an expert mindset and, always looking for possibilities and staying curious about how to better your systems and better help and serve people with as times change. But I think playing the long game is what I've really learned is if you really love your people, serve them well, give great service, and focus on the details and know that you're building a career. I think a lot of agents fizzle out the first couple years because they're just chasing that next deal.
Yeah.
And that deal goes south and they're like, well, we closed. I'm like, is that your goal to just get to the closing table? If that person wouldn't refer you, you've lost once again. And you asked how to build a referral-based business, and it's like really being thankful and focusing on the lead, loving the leads you have and growing on that. I think a lot of people will sell a house and forget about that client and then they're chasing a new client.
Yep.
what about, you're just forgetting.
Yeah.
I think
They,
that's just building, you're building
yeah.
on sand at that point.
Yeah. They forget to nurture. That's what
Yeah,
you want to
nurture and
nurture and pay attention.
yeah.
Be, yeah, definitely.
And I think a lot of people, it's very like everyone's on like an auto text. Hey, how you doing? And it's like, I'm talking really, be about your people to build a business.
Genuine.
And it's also what keeps your job fun, right? Because we
Yeah.
can really, and just to be yourself, be honest. One of my things I teach the most, it's not even for me, it's actually from Brene Brown. And she talks about grounded confidence, and the near enemy is being, there's like the thing that drives connection and then what drives disconnection. And real grounded confidence, the near enemy is that drives disconnection is being a know-it-all and a prover. And you
Mm,
feel like you have to prove yourself, which is a lot of us when you start, right? You have to feel like you have a right to be in the room. And but also people think if they sell, they're doing good if they're a producer. But
mm-hmm.
real grounded confidence is being a learner, and you're the last to speak and you're listening. And she says a quote that I've literally built my business off of, but it says, grounded confidence says, I'm not here to be right. I'm here to get it right.
Wow.
And that
I
is
like
what
that.
I would tell anyone. I'm like, get it, like whatever you're doing, focus on that thing and let your business build and play the long game.
Yes.
Because I remember feeling like it's like my second year, running around, you're just taking calls, Zillow calls, and here it is 9 years later. And you're like, oh, wow, the fact that our phone rings without marketing and someone wants you is like to advise them is an honor. Like me and Scoop all the time, one of my agents, he'll be like, I just can't believe our phone rings. I'm like, surprise. Like,
Yeah.
that's the gift. So I think focusing on that, the long game, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Because I think a lot of people, and of course, as of now, there's so much going on within the real estate industry, and people don't really know how to perceive what they hear and what they
Oh,
see.
yeah.
But I think you're right on the long game, because there's a lot of people, as you know, this market here in Middle Tennessee a few years ago, everything's multiple offers, everything
Oh,
is
yeah.
30 to 50,000 over asking price. And a lot of people felt like, I remember a certain person telling me, well, you should be happy now. You're busy and you're definitely going to be getting paid. And I'm like, I am happy, but what you all don't realize and what you all don't see is the extra work that has to go into.
Yes. You're like mentally. And
Yes,
I hate,
this
yeah,
is
that's
what
so
you all
true.
don't see. But during that time, we had the percentage of the increase, but during that time, we seen an increase in agents coming into the market, because all of them was just like,
Oh, yeah.
hey, all you got to do is put it on the market and
Oh,
it's going
yeah.
to sell.
Everyone wants to be a realtor
Yes,
for sure. Well, that's why I'm
but
happy for the recession. I'm like, y'all go back to your day jobs at the big
exactly
and tall store. Let us
right.
do what we're.
Because right now, the market that we're in, you have to market, you have to work, you may have to show more than four houses, you have to get into it. But
Yeah, you got to be committed. And
yes,
it's our market has been diluted, I feel like. And look, I'm not mad at anyone who wants to come in and is going to work for it. I have
yeah,
agents who have earned it, they're working for it. But to assume that it's easy and that anyone can do it, I can put my value, anywhere. I can
yeah,
explain it, charge for it, and we're lucky to do what we do. But yeah, for a while there, I was like, I'm ready for this recession. It needs to be because you're getting contracts, and I'm like, what is this? Like, you're
yeah,
doing both sides. And so I think it's just slowing down. But in reality, you're moving so fast. Like, it's not, you don't
yeah,
know if you're doing something wrong sometimes. For the bar is so low for real
mm,
estate, and it needs to be raised in my opinion.
yeah,
And so I think it's like all you can pray for when we're moving that fast is that like you get a chance to pay for any mistake you make and you learn from it, and hope, and monetarily maybe, and that your client doesn't,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. Yep, I agree. Absolutely. I know you talked about getting your systems and things like that in place. Are there any other like goals or anything that you want to accomplish in this year?
I'm mainly focusing on Franklin a little more. I'm excited to be back because I'm from here and was raised
Gotcha.
here. Just bought a house. I'm renovating right in between downtown Franklin and the factory and making our
Nice.
office. And I just really love that area. So I think we're going to try to, we help anyone and everyone, but I really want to get involved more here.
Yeah.
This is my
Yeah,
home base.
you might as well work in your own backyard.
Yeah, just learning to be a little more flexible, like you said, with the market. It's like learning how to do things a little differently, but also it's still the same. I
Mm.
used to be, like I said, a little more rigid. Everything has to be this way. And you're like, okay, I've
Yeah.
gotten more flexible, and that's been nice. I got a dog, which is exciting. My
A
first
dog? What kind of dog did you get?
I have a Bernie doodle named Winston, and I talk about him all the time. People are probably like, shut up about your dog. But my
Oh,
first probably season of your career, it's like it takes so much,
yeah.
and you always feel like I can't travel, I can't do this with a dog, and I can't. And so when I finally, you mentioned, I want to circle back actually, you said people are always like, you're doing so good. You're going to be getting paid. And people don't, you're so right. Like when I had burnout in 2020, I was hustling so hard to help my family, and everyone's having the worst years ever. So during COVID, so you feel like I should be so grateful, and I was, to have a business, but mentally, like no one's, maybe you need a vacation, because people
Mm,
love you when you're producing.
yeah.
And so I really am enjoying not being too busy, and I don't like setting those huge goals that are gonna not make me a great person. I'm not very nice. So I'm
Gotcha.
just kidding.
Yes.
When you're like, okay, I just want to produce, I don't think that quantity is better than quality.
Yeah. I gotcha.
Like people focus on revenue and not profit. And so I think like having your peace and enjoying the people you work with, being able to be at the closings for your clients, like that kind of stuff is where I put a little more stock in than like, let me be the top realtor in Nashville.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. I know exactly what you mean. So, the last thing that I want to do before we close the show, I think you already mentioned once how people can get in touch with you, but if you want to do that again, just for the audience listening, since especially you're focusing on Franklin, so maybe like a shout out or anything to the Frank
Yeah,
Billions.
my number, anyone can find me, 615-564-0285, but you can find us at tourproperties.com or Jess Sowell on Instagram, three S's, Jess Sowell. That's how you spell it. And yeah, especially anyone looking to move in Franklin. I love giving hometown tours. There's so many good places to
Awesome.
live. You can, I
Yeah.
love showing people around.
Cool. Well, if anyone is listening who is out in the Franklin, Tennessee area, please reach out to Miss Jess Sowell
Mm.
and she will definitely help you. She has a heart of gold, it sounds like, when it comes to her clients. So that
Oh,
is
thank you.
awesome. And we want to thank you also for coming on the podcast today and being a part of the Icons Real Estate Nashville edition.
Oh, thanks
And
again for having me.
yes, please make sure you stay in touch. If you ever start doing anything else and would like to come back on, we would be happy to have you. Or if any of your team is interested, we'll definitely be happy to have you on.
Yeah, I would love to connect you with some of my team, some of my agents. Love to hear what they have to say.
Awesome. Yes, awesome. So thank you so much for joining the podcast. Thank you guys for listening. This is Crystal Gray with the Icons of Real Estate Nashville. And look out for our next episode. Bye, guys.